Welcome to another edition of Chef Knives to Go Quick Look Product Reviews. I'm Steve Gamache, and what you have today is the Nishida Shidogami, or white number 1 polished Gyuto 240mm knife. As stated, these have a core steel of Shidogami or white paper number 1 reactive high carbon steel from Hitachi, which has a very pure carbon steel, and it takes a wicked edge and is just awesome to sharpen. So beautiful to sharpen. The heat treat's about 60-61 Rockwell in that core steel, and the construction is a 3-layer sandwich with reactive soft iron cladding that's polished on each side of that Shidogami number 1 core. And these are ground pretty thin, because you can see how much of that core steel is showing at the edge. And they've got kind of a semi-mirror polish on them that's actually fairly tough, I've found in practice. The knife itself, you'll see, has some mass to it and some thickness to the spine, but yet it's ground pretty thin at the edge and at the tip for pretty good performance. Actually, quite good performance. The weight on this one, this is going to vary a little bit from knife to knife, but this one's about 224 grams, 7.9 ounces. It's right around 240 on the edge from tip to chin, about a little under 9.5 inches, and then the overall length about 15.3 inches on this one. The spine thickness, these will vary, but this one's about 3.7 coming out of the handle above the back of the blade, and then it kind of has a continuous taper all the way down and gets a little thinner until you get about the last maybe inch or so, and it thins down to a pretty small grind at the tip. So the tip's pretty doggone thin on this. Every knife's going to vary just a little bit. The blade height is pretty generous at 51 millimeters, so it's a pretty good sized knife. And the handle type is kind of their standard oval, ambidextrous rosewood with the black packawood, stabilized wood ferrule, and pretty good tight fit and finish on the install on the handle. Circumference is kind of a standard size for this size knife. It's about 77 millimeter, about 3 inches in circumference, right where the ferrule and the main part of the wood handle meet. And let's take a look at the balance point. These are pretty stout blades, so the balance point's going to be a little bit forward. And so there's my finger for the balance point. Pinch grip is going to be behind that for me. So it's going to have some weight forward balance to it and some mass to it, and it definitely feels like you have a knife in your hand, so that gives you some power for cutting. Let's take a close-up look. As stated, this is kind of a semi-mirror polished blade, so they left some character to it. You've got what looks to me to be hand-chiseled kanji. I know I've been saying this in all the videos. I think it's hand-chiseled. It's a little smaller than I'm used to, but anyway, it's definitely, you can feel it when you run your finger across. It definitely looks hand-cut somehow. Whether they use a chisel or something else, I'm not sure. So there is your blade, close up, best I can get it. Again, fair amount of polish. These are pretty thin at the edge. The spine and choil are relieved a bit and polished, so it's got a nice fit and finish on it. The grind, as I said, they do grind these pretty thin at the edge and at the tip as well. So these are pretty good performers. Let's take a look at it on our cutting board. Again, the blade is pretty stout, pretty doggone stiff, but the grind really helps. And it makes up for it in a lot of ways. So here is the cutting board profile. So these have I think a pretty good all-around profile. They grind them pretty nice, and the profiles are pretty doggone smooth in the way they flow. So a little bit of belly towards the tip, and then a little bit of flat spot towards the heel. They're all going to be ground a little different. This one has just a little back belly, kind of a little bump in the profile right there, but it's pretty smooth. You could probably tweak that just a little bit. Belly-wise, I can get about right there before I start digging the tip in. It's going to vary depending on the particular knife. Every knife's ground just a little bit different. So I'd say this is kind of an all-around-ish profile. So it's kind of an interesting line of knives. So you have to be prepared to deal with the reactivity of the blade, since the whole thing is reactive. But it's an interesting knife that'll be awesome to sharpen. So there you have the Nishida Shidogami number 1 polished Gyuto 240mm knife.